Well, it's an honor to present Jim, celebrate 50 years of service to the bar and 50 years of the most wonderful personal friendship. Jim I got to know him really well right off the bat. He and Edie were living there on Waltham Road with a fairly persnickety landlord, which required us to flex our young muscles in order to get him out of the lease. And it was also close to where I was living, and Jim, being environmentally correct, would come by to pick me up every morning to go to work in his dark green 8.6 miles per gallon green Chrysler Roadster. And we did that while we were young associates at the firm. And we've, over the years, had a lot of adventures. One I remember, Jim traded in that Chrysler and acquired a sailboat. And one of the highlights every year was sailing it back from Sandusky to Lorraine. One year, it got misty and we felt we were lost at sea on Lake Erie. And then Jim saw a building looming up and said, "That's the Cleveland Terminal Tower. We've overshot Lorraine." But it turned out to be the Lorraine grain elevator as we got closer. We've had a lot of fantasy hikes and fantasy skiing. We took one Eiger Pretend hike, stayed at a hut right under the north face of the Eiger. We were the only people in the inn. The Swiss host plied us with wine and family photographs, didn't charge us the next morning. And then we took off up the Schilthorn Mountain, and Jim is always prepared. He brought along his backpack, must have weighed about 100 pounds. He had some hickory chips in there so we could grill steaks. And we went under some cold showers, and that morning I found a dehydrated Jim Kennedy almost on death's door. And then in those days, one of the perks for underpaid lawyers were boondoggle seminars. And I remember Jim and Edie and my wife went down to New Orleans for an antitrust seminar. Jim had picked out the 5 finest restaurants, and we went to the lectures, and we laughed over martinis about discussion of such topics as the Knorr-Pennington Doctrine. And I'm sure Voorhees has a tighter rein on this sort of thing now than they did then, but we had a great time. But Jim took this seriously. I think that was probably toward the beginning of his career as a really, truly outstanding antitrust lawyer with a national reputation. He's tried cases in Los Angeles, San Francisco, New Orleans, Chicago, Washington, D.C., complex cases, some lasting many months. One of them was the lysine price-fixing case where Archer Daniel Midlands was the prime target, and Jim's client, Mr. Yamamoto of Japan, was also a defendant. And that was immortalized in the movie The Informant, starring Matt Damon. Jim didn't make the movie, I thought, because probably Humphrey Bogart was dead. And as a recognition, both nationally and internationally, of his work in the antitrust area, he was named chairman of the ABA Committee on Antitrust Law. Well, his son John would be with him here in spirit, and I'm so pleased that his son Jim and his wife Mandy are here, along with his sweetheart companion of many, many years, Edie, who's gone through all these adventures with him. And I'm so pleased to honor my dear friend, Jim Kennedy.
In the middle.